turns out they can't handle a bunch of CNBC moderators. If you can't handle those guys, you know, then I don't think the Chinese and the Russians are going to be too worried about you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, time for the Malzberg panel. As promised, Nomiki Konst, Executive Director of the Accountability Project and host of the Accountability Podcast, and Ford O'Connell, Republican strategist and political analyst. Let me start with you, Ford. Rick Santorum was on with us just before, and he said that Obama, the Putin punching bag, is the pot calling the kettle black on this one.
Well, Obama likes to whine all the time. The difference was at the CNBC debates, regardless of your view, America saw that there's a liberal media bias. Unfortunately, the Republicans have to understand they have a very short window, and if they don't fix this situation, they're going to have to move forward. They're going to be the butt of all jokes. But honestly, Obama has got to be a joke. He constantly whines. He constantly gets beaten up and down the world stage, and all he wants to do is thumb it on Republicans.
Nomiki?
This is hysterical. This cannot be your response to this. CNBC, listen, I think there are a lot of Democrats who've come out and said, okay, CNBC could have been more professional, more prepared. But they're by no means biased. You know, Rick Santilli, the founder of the Tea Party, came from CNBC. You know, 2 of the 3 moderators in that panel were conservatives at one point, and one is a very well-known moderate. So there's no bias here. It's just a bunch of whining candidates who want to get their...
No, Miki, though, but you're missing the point. When half the questions are basically set up saying, you said or did controversial X explain, that's a gotcha moment. CNBC minus Rick Santilli does not respect conservative values. This is for conservatives and right-leaning independents, not for Obama to sit there and make jokes over.
Obama, he was in front of an audience of Democrats. What is he going to do? You know, sit there still and not say anything? Of course he's going to make light of the fact that Republicans are, I mean, you have to admit, there are plenty of Republicans who I've spoken to say that this has gotten out of control, that it is a complete clown car right now, give or take a few candidates who are taking it seriously. You have to admit that.
Nomiki. It's not the job of the moderators to try to make. You think John Harwood is a conservative or former conservative?
He used to be a Wall Street Journal columnist. I mean,
he is as big a lib as they come, and that's established and that's accepted. So I don't know what fantasy or planet you're living on. I want to move on, and I want to move to Barack Obama yesterday on NBC talking about his plan to reform the criminal justice system. Let's watch.
You know, this is something that's important to me. You know, one of the things that I've consistently said as president is that I'm the president of all people. You know, I am very proud that my presidency can help to galvanize and mobilize America on behalf of issues of racial disparity and racial justice.
Ford, the greatest divider along racial lines in our history when it comes to the presidency. I don't know what planet he's living on. Maybe he's on Nomiki's planet. But, you know, he's talking about letting 6,000 criminals out of jail. He's talking about incarcerating less people, but keeping the streets safe, which it's not liberal fantasy. It's insanity.
Well, I think that
I was asking Ford, but go ahead.
Incompatible and doesn't, you know, basically mesh with cognitive thinking, and basically also he stokes so much hatred across the country. It's really unfortunate. I do believe that he does believe honestly in criminal justice reform, but this is really about creating a black America and a white America, and it's really sad.
Right. Nomiki, he talks about a disparity in arrest rates, and he talks about, you know, a disparity in sentencing along racial lines. He gives no specifics, but it's an established fact. FBI statistics will show you blacks commit an inordinate amount of crime, much higher than their representation in the population. They're probably more repeat offenders, so when they're sentenced, they're probably sentenced more harshly than first-time offenders. So, you know, he talks in a lot of gobbledygook, but the facts are the facts.
Well, the facts, the FBI also has said that the police, there's an inherent injustice in the way that African Americans are targeted. That is just something that exists.
Wait. The FBI said, wait. Time out.
Yeah,
No, Mickey, you got to time out. The FBI said what?
That there is an inherent injustice in the way
inherent injustice.
Inherent.
So the FBI, who said this? Who came out and said this?
FBI published a report a few months ago. It was widely released. Everybody, you know, all the news media talked about it. And going back to the stats about crime, you know, first thing, these are minor convictions. People who've been convicted of minor offenses that are going to be released. Number one. Number two, you know, when you say that African Americans commit more crime,
as a former,
Ford, let her just finish this. Let her just finish this. Go ahead. When I say African Americans commit, go ahead.
When most major police commissioners across the country agree that this is smart criminal justice reform, the fact that we are
No, you were going to say when you say that blacks commit a disproportionate amount of crime, and then I cut you off. What go ahead, finish.
I was saying yes, they're being targeted. I mean,
they're being targeted. So, time out. So they're not committing the crimes.
Well, they're not committing crimes at a higher rate than white people are. You know,
they're committing They're committing crimes that disproportionate, way out of whack with the representation in the population. True. Don't tell me it's not true, because that would make me a liar. So between us, it's you. I am right. Check the statistics. That you're telling me. Wait, time out. You're telling me that blacks commit about 13% of the crime in this country? Is that what you're telling me? Is that what you're telling me?
That they commit 13% of the crime in this country?
Because that's what they represent in the population.
I'm saying that there is not a... There's
all right, we got to come back. You don't know what you're saying. We'll come back. All right, folks, we're back with Nomiki Konst and Ford O'Connell. In the previous segment, I let my emotions get the best of me, and I called Nomiki a liar. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt and just say she's ill-informed when she said I was wrong when I said blacks commit a disproportionate amount of the crime in this country compared to their representation in the population. Ford?
Yeah, here's the other thing, though. When Nomiki says minor offenses, I think that's a little bit of a red herring, too, because as someone who's worked at the DA's office, let me say that a lot of these charges are knocked down, and sometimes people get out because they committed minor crimes, and what happens was they weren't minor crimes. Just for the sake of justice and expediency, we gave them a lesser offense. So we have to be very, very careful who's let out of jail.
And Ford, but you will agree that it's an accepted FBI statistics and crime statistics that blacks, compared to their representation in the population, commit a much higher percentage of the crime in this country, including violent crime.
Especially homicide. That is absolutely correct, Steve.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move on. Donald Trump had a lot to say today, and here's some of what he said.
I think that Ben just doesn't have the experience. Say, look, you know, I'm going to make the greatest deals you've ever seen on trade. We're going to run the military properly. I'm going to take care of the vets. Ben can't do those things. Ben cannot deal on trade. Ben cannot deal with... It's not his thing, George. You know, you're born with it. It's not his thing. He hasn't got the temperament for it. It's not the right thing for him.
All right, Ford, unfair?
Actually, it is quite fair on Donald Trump's part, but here's what Donald Trump's scared about. It is Ben Carson's time in the sun right now in the polls, and 50%, basically when it comes to first and second choice, Ben Carson's at 50%. Donald Trump has to be careful how he knocks Ben Carson, because Ben Carson's net favorability is at 70, but Donald Trump knows the two people that could block him from winning the nomination are Ben Carson and Marco Rubio as of today.
And Nomiki, there's a new poll out today, NBC Wall Street Journal, which shows that Donald Trump is ahead. Ben Carson is ahead by about 5 points. It mirrors kind of the New York Times CBS poll ahead of Trump. But the Reuters poll out today shows that Trump has about 31% to like 16 for Carson. So where do you believe if you're the campaigns of those two candidates?
Well, I think that the two polls that came out recently that reflect that are similar are the way that the polls were conducted. That part of the polls of the likely Republican primary voters were conducted before the debate, and part of them were conducted after. Versus this other poll that came out, I believe, was before the debate, if I read it properly. So, I think polls at this time, while people mock polls in that there's, a lot of them have large margin of errors and they don't mean much this early on, what it does, though, for a campaign is it signals where they are in the horse race, how much money they can raise. If Ben Carson is now leading against Trump, that's pretty big. And what that does is that the resources are suddenly going to go to Ben Carson, or the electorate starts to shift in a different direction. And the primaries are only a few months away, 2 months away. So I think this is bad for Trump. This is really bad for Trump. But we've been saying this all along.
I think the big problem that Trump has, he doesn't want to lose the perception of inevitability, because to him being able to tout the polls over and over, Steve, becomes a little bit of a psychological warfare.
Right.
I don't think he's slipping, but he's certainly sliding downward.
All right, I want you to hear what some of the women on The View said about Carly Fiorina. Let's watch.
She kicked off her thing saying, people tell me that I didn't smile enough during the last debate. She looked demented. I mean, she did not, her mouth did not downturn one time. She was like,
Halloween mask. I love that.
Smiling Fiorina. Can you imagine? Give you nightmares.
All right, so Nomiki, where's Hillary Clinton, the great savior of women, who's running as a woman because she's a woman for women? She's a grandmother. She brought up her mother, her granddaughter, women, and she sits back and doesn't have anything to say when the women of The View say that Carly Fiorina looked demented?
Well, to be fair, I don't think Carly Fiorina has supported Hillary either. I don't think it's Hillary's role to defend every single woman out there. I think it's Hillary's role to be the best female candidate she can be, the best candidate she can be in representing women. Now, what happened on The View? That was disgusting. I'm shocked that they could make comments like that, and I'm personally offended. I don't like Carly Fiorina, and I think that all candidates are equal, especially in the debate stage, which is all about imagery. All of them should be criticized for their policies, whether they're prepared, and it's such a demeanor. And
Ford, Hillary doesn't represent all women. In other words, only liberal women who agree with her.
Defend all women.
Well, and that's why The View is Hillary Clinton's greatest super PAC, and this is what happens. It's okay to rip Carly because she doesn't fit that mold of the liberal progressive woman. Instead, she's a conservative, so therefore she's not a real woman.
Right. All right, listen, Nomiki, you're not a liar. I apologize again for saying that. And Ford, you're not a liar either, even though I never called you one. So that's equal opportunity apologies. And thank you very much, guys. Appreciate the good debate. Dick Morris is next, so make sure you keep it tuned right here on Newsmax Television on the Steve Malzberg Show.